Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Strip by Sia, your podcast for strippers, sex workers, and all the fancy naked people in between. Welcome back to another episode. Thanks again for all new listeners, old listeners, people who are just popping in for this really buzzy episode. We have a wonderful guest on today by the name of Saskia, who joins us all the way from Montreal, who is a dancer. She is also a competitive pole dancer as well. She has a very, very interesting family history to do with sex work, and the main focal point of today's topic, we're going to be talking about basically people fucking up the system for sex workers, mainly celebrities or even civilians that are trying to fuck shit up for us. So it is a supercharged episode today. We are going to unleash the beast. We are not going to be holding back at all. So that is the agenda for today. But without further ado, I really wanted to introduce Saskia onto the show today. Saskia, are you there?
Yes, hello. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. And I do have to shout out, some of our listeners actually reached out to me to reach out to you to be like, hey, there's this really cool dancer that you must interview. And her name is Saskia. So I went ahead and stalked you on Instagram. And it turns out I actually know of your name in the pole dancing, like, competitive field. Like, I haven't met you personally, but I've heard of your name before. Yeah. So praise to you.
That's so cool.
You're an amazing dancer. I just want to say that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. So I personally don't know you. So if you don't mind telling the audience who you are, what you do, in your own words, on your own terms, and go.
Okay, cool. So my name is Saskia. I'm from Montreal. I currently living slightly off of government money at the moment.
Yes.
And I'm teaching private pole lessons from my house and stuff, but before COVID, I was working as a dancer at a club in Montreal, and I just haven't returned because of COVID at the moment.
Right.
And I've been teaching pole for 5 years, and competing for about 5 years. Yeah, I have an OnlyFans, which is pretty much just me, like, being weird with my boobs out, so it's not really, like... Yeah, that's what I do. It's a little all over the place.
I love that. That's so amazing. And it's great because I actually haven't had any representation from Montreal yet. And basically, like, cool. Montreal is like the stripper capital of Canada. I know that much.
Yeah, which is so weird because, like, the industry is so different in Quebec than what I've heard it is in other provinces. You know?
Oh, okay.
Which, I mean, I've never danced in any other province, so I can't speak for all the provinces, but I know that a lot of other places in Canada hire, like, feature performers and stuff like that. Right. And in Montreal, it's really mostly just straight clubs with all the dancers have the same job. They don't hire specific people to come in and do shows, so it is a bit different.
Oh, really? Do you mind going into that a little bit too? Because, like, as I said, I haven't had any guests on the show from Montreal. So if you don't mind, like, explaining a little bit just how it works over there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here, like, everyone works and everyone does their stage and no one gets paid for their stage pretty much. Like, there is a pretty high level of pole in Montreal. So a lot of the good clubs you go to will, like, the majority of the girls who are on stage are doing good shows, you know?
Right.
So they don't really need to pay feature performers. Like, it does happen every once in a while. I've heard that, like, the club where I work, they used to let this one girl do her, like, chains routine on the stage, and that covered her house fee.
Oh.
But, like, I don't think she got paid for the actual stage. Yeah. So it's a totally different and somewhat frustrating situation because trying to get feature gigs in my own province is not really, like, a thing.
Oh, but, interesting.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
I've never even developed a whole feature-length piece because there's really no reason for me to do that, you know?
Wow. So in that case, do you think it's really competitive over there then, in that kind of sense?
I mean, I don't have anything to compare it to, really. Mm-hmm. So, but, and, like, I mean, like the rest of Canada, I assume the stage is not where you make your money, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's, I wouldn't be able to say if I think it's more competitive. I think it's definitely a competitive job. And like the girls who are trying hard on stage are usually the girls who are trying hard on the floor too. But,
of course.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting. Thanks for sharing that perspective. Yeah, things are done so differently.
I've always kind of wondered how it is in other provinces.
Yeah.
Like getting a feature gig, like how good you have to be to feature and stuff like that. I really don't even know how it works elsewhere. So
yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, like with stage in BC, like you have to be part of an agency in order to even get on a stage. We are paid for our shows, and there's different ranges for the shows depending on like your skill set and your level. And then in Alberta, things are done a little bit differently there too. Like the price of dances are lower there. Same with Toronto. So it's all like every province like does their own thing. And when it comes to actual featuring, I think from what I understand from the guests on my show and just like how things are run over here, like a lot of people have to compete in a lot of the contests or like the stripper competitions like Miss Nude West Coast or Miss Nude BC or Miss Nude Canada and stuff like that, just to get more rapport. And then something like that. And then like I know that, and correct me if I'm wrong, anyone listening out there, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's also like big stripper conventions as well that you can get invited to, like EDI in Texas or in the States, which obviously can't exactly happen right now, where you can kind of like yeah, it's a different time right now. But you can kind of just get invited to those events, and with those affiliations, you can get invited to the stripper conventions in Vegas where you can have your own booth and stuff, and then start featuring from there and really just like build up your name. So that's kind of how I understand it. I can be completely wrong, but we did have a couple girls on the show talk about it in season 1. But total sidebar. Total sidebar, but it is a really interesting way to go, especially if you really want to like move up in your career and like really see where that can take you, and especially if you're super skilled with your shows and your costumes and the whole glamour behind it. So just an FYI. But I also wanted to talk to you about your family roots. There was a lot of people that were interested in the relationship you have with your mother, who was a dancer in her time. So do you want to speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my mom was a dancer in the 80s when she met my dad at a place called Le Strip in Toronto. And I've always known my mom was a stripper. Like, and I guess I didn't always know, you know, even when you're a little kid. But as soon as I was old enough to know what being a stripper was, I knew that my mom had done that at some point. And I always I didn't think of it as like a sex thing. I just thought of it as like a naked dancing and like you're a wild woman kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I never, my parents never really made me feel like it was something my mom should be ashamed of. So then I didn't really think of it that way.
That's really cool.
I only recently found out that my grandma was also in the industry.
Oh.
She worked as like a house mother, kind of, so like a bunny mother.
Yeah.
I only heard this recently and from my grandpa through my sister. So it's like, I don't know the details, but yeah, she like helped the girls like get ready and do their hair and stuff for their like their night or whatever.
Whoa, that is so cool.
Yeah, it's funny because like I didn't really ever think about it, and then I was like, oh yeah, I guess I am like third generation, like part of the industry somehow, you know, like.
That is so cool.
So, that's kind of cool.
That's amazing. Like, so like it was more of like an observation with like your mom, like, okay, like I understand that you've done this kind of line of work. Was there ever a time when your mom or even like your dad, your parents or anyone, did they ever have a conversation with you about the type of work that she did?
That she did? Yeah, like, I remember, well, because both my parents are artists, so, like, they do performance art and, like, some weird stuff, and, like, at some point along the lines, I guess my mom told me and my sister about this act she had, because she was a very like sassy lady. I'm assuming her act was like and my dad told me that he would go see her at this club and sit and watch her show, and she would like walk around the stage and like kind of like swinging a big chain.
What?
Like very scary and intimidating, yeah. And then she had like another part of her act where she just had like these mules, like mule heels that you can just slip into.
Okay.
And she would have those on the stage, but she would walk around barefoot, like snarling at the audience and like looking at them like they were like worthless. And then she would like step into her sexy heels and like perk up and like look all like feminine and girly and like what she assumed they like wanted, you know?
Interesting.
And then she would like step out of them and walk around being like snarly again. And it was like something my mom told me this as like a funny story about her act, you know, but it's like very telling of the kind of person she was. And then the way I saw stripping, I saw it as a way to like do whatever the fuck you want on stage, and that's your time. You've got a few minutes, and
totally
you can just do whatever you want up there, you know?
Yeah, make that time yours. That's so cool.
Exactly. So they did talk to me about it, but never like so this is what your mom did. It was more like so your mom did this thing. Like, you know?
That is a really cool. That's such a really cool and safe way to introduce that topic too. So not having any shame or stigma surrounding it is incredibly inclusive.
Yeah. Wow. It was really grateful.
That is awesome. And like I didn't even ask you how you got your start in stripping and exotic dance. Did you want to speak about that? And like, has your relationship with your mom, has that affected why you chose to dance or anything like that? So lots of big questions coming at you right now.
Yeah, I mean, I've been pole dancing for over 6 years now.
Okay.
I started in early 2014, and then I had already been pole dancing and even teaching for a couple of years when I decided to go traveling to Australia.
Okay, right, yes.
And it was while I was in Australia that I kind of was running out of money, and I was dating this guy, and I was like, I wanted to start stripping at the club across from our hostel, and he really didn't want me to. And I think the fact that he didn't want me to pushed me even more. I was like, this guy's trying to control me, and I'm on the other side of the fucking world, you know? And I was like, no. So I dumped him and started stripping at the club across from my hostel.
Yay!
Yeah, and honestly, like, right away after my first night, I was like, this is the job for me, man. Like, this is the best. Obviously, I already knew how to pole dance relatively well. Like, I could do a few tricks. So when I walked into the club, I didn't have that, like, I'm a new girl. Like, no one really treated me like I was a new girl because they assumed I knew what I was doing because of what I could do on stage.
Okay,
so that,
interesting.
Like, I definitely got through easy, you know, like some people really get picked on if they're, like, awkward and shit, you know? So I'm happy that I didn't have to deal with any of that. And, like, right away I had a girl kind of come up to me, and when she was just like, your stage was great, like, how long have you been dancing? And I was like, it's my first night. And she just like took me under her wing.
Wow.
Yeah, shout out Jeannie.
There we go.
But yeah, she just like taught me, showed me the ropes, you know, and then I was like, this is fucking awesome. So I just continued. And,
holy shit.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's kind of how it happened. Yeah.
That's amazing.
I don't think that I don't think that my mom being a stripper made me decide to be, like, helped me decide, but it definitely made me feel like I was allowed to make my own choices, and they wouldn't be upset if I told them, so I felt like very safe in the fact that I was, even though I was on the other side of the world and now single, I was able to, like, start this new job and call my mom and tell her about it and about how much I liked it and stuff. So that was I was lucky.
That's super lucky. And that's, wow, what an opportunity to do that. That's wild. Oh my gosh. Like, when you first started stripping, and that was in Australia, like, how were things really, I mean, comparative to what you're doing now at the clubs, is it very different down under how they run things, or is it quite similar to what you'd find here in North America?
So I danced at 3 different clubs in Sydney.
Oh my gosh.
And so that's like my only, like, I can say that most of the clubs there work off of, I shouldn't say most, because like I don't know, but I worked at one club where it was like they work off percentage, so you don't pay a house fee.
Oh, interesting.
But they take 40% of everything you make.
Oh, wow. That's a big cut.
And yeah, it's a huge percentage, and it's like a lot harder to sell because dances are like the shortest dance at that club was 15 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
So you had to like hustle hard, but
Yeah.
then as soon as you got a 15-minute dance, that was like it was $100 for the 15 minutes, 60 of that was yours, and then contact was an extra 50 for the 15 minutes. So like right away, if you got that dance, you know you had like $100 for 15 minutes, pretty much. But it's harder to get a 15-minute dance than a 3-minute dance.
Yeah.
So there's like ups and downs to it.
Right.
I definitely prefer the way it works where I'm working now, where I just pay a house fee and then I work as hard as I want to work and the money's mine. I definitely think it's more fair to the dancers to do it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But I don't think it's like that everywhere in Australia.
Yeah, because it just depends on what city you're in, what club you're in even, how things are run. Like there's like no consistency at all.
No, I know. It's so weird. Like even at that club, there was like one girl who she only had to give 30% because she was like their highest earner. And like we all just kind of like knew that.
Oh my God.
But she was like, it was crazy. She would walk into the club and like I don't want to be mean, but like if you looked at her in the changing room, you saw how old she actually was, and then she walked on the floor and she looked literally 20 years younger in those lights, and she would put us all to shame. She made so much money. She just like walk up to people, whisper something in their ear, and they just got up and followed her like every time without a doubt. So I was like, I get why she only has to pay 30%, but fuck, like yeah.
That's crazy. Incredible. That is a talent, man. Like that is a skill.
Yeah, it really is. And I remember I asked some man once, I was like, what did she say to you? Tell me. He was like, I don't remember. Oh my God.
That's incredible. I'm always amazed at how well like the freelancers and the VIPs, like how well they do their job and how convincing they can be. And that's somewhere where I personally really lack as a dancer. Like when you started stripping in Australia, were you prepared for the whole hustle aspect of it? The private dances, contact, no contact?
Definitely not. I think that I like went into it thinking that the hardest part was going to be the talking to people, and I was right about that.
Yeah.
But for me, another really hard part about it was not partying at work.
Yes.
I like to drink, and I was also traveling while I started stripping. So to me, like, people offer you free drinks when you're backpacking. You're like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna take it, even if you're at work. And then next thing you know, you're fucking hammered, you know? So, I forget what the question was. I just like, I got drunk at work. But
yeah,
like, something I had to like assess how I was gonna do the job, because I realized that like as a party girl, that works, that like aspect of my personality helps me sell, but I have to fake it to a certain degree. Like I can't actually be taking 8 shots in a row and still be doing my job. So there was like I had to find the way, and like I kind of took a break from stripping when I came back to Canada. I was a bit nervous to get back into it.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because the rules are a bit different, and so I took a bit of a break before I got back into it here, and when I got back into it, I decided that I wasn't going to drink while I was working, and like that obviously like slips a bit, a glass of wine here and there, but I never get drunk at work anymore. Yeah. And I have been making significantly more money. Like they go hand in hand, you know.
Totally.
You need to be working when you're at work to make money.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely applaud you on that, because then like when I started too, like I was like, okay, double whiskey on the rocks every time, just to like help with like easing the nerves and stuff. But then it just turned me into like a sloppy dancer, and my tricks weren't safe, and like it was totally sketchy. So I was like, nope, soda water it is with a lime.
Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly. Yeah, like, and to bring it back to like when I took a break before I came back to stripping in Montreal, it was mainly because in Montreal you actually have to get fully nude on stage, and I had never done that in Australia. In Australia where I worked, you take off as much as you think like they deserve, almost. Like if you haven't made $1, no one's expecting you to even take your tits out.
Really?
So,
oh my god.
Yeah, so I got through a lot of my stages. I did some stages where I made over $100 and I still didn't even show a boob. Like, I don't know how. It works in a totally different way. If they want to see you naked, they get a private dance. And like, I think it's like, there are some girls who get fully naked up there and that's part of how they sell.
Yeah.
But, I think it worked for me that I was kind of like the shy one who was like not getting fully nude, and then people like want to see more after, you know? So that worked for me. And then having to do that in Montreal, I was like so freaking out about the idea of being like pussy out on stage.
Yeah.
Honestly, mostly because I was like, how do you take a thong off in high heels while you look hot? Because I've seen people do it badly so many times, and I was like, I don't want to do that. Like,
no.
So,
girl, I hear you. There is like a grace when taking off underwear.
I just lay on my back now because, like, if I try to do it standing up, it's like definitely not gonna look cute.
Oh no, I hear you. Unless you have those like the underwear where just like it snaps off. It's just like it's sketchy.
I need to invest in some of those. You're not the first person. I say this all the time. People are like, just get the snap-on panties, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess that would help. But
that or like the string ties on the side, like bikini bottom style. But well, speaking of,
I'm like trying to like squeeze out of my high-waisted like lace underwear. It's like so fucking awkward. Like, oh well.
There's like no stretch, and you're just like, oh god, help me.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, speaking of like high heels and like lace and the whole look, the whole stripper aesthetic, I really wanted us to kind of get into the topic of shit disturbers, celebrities, controversy, trying to steal the look, not actually being a stripper, not actually paying homage to where that kind of inspiration comes from. God, like, where do you even want to start with this topic? Like,
yeah, I like don't even know. It's like it's a lot.
It's a lot. Like, okay, like, why don't we, if there are positives, like, why don't we start off with the positives in terms of, like, okay, like, with the movie Hustlers that came out last year, I did a bonus episode on that last year, in terms of, like, okay, well, it's bringing sex work and stripping to the forefront. There are celebrities pushing for this, trying to make this okay and destigmatize that kind of work. But then again, it was also a movie, and, you know, it doesn't accurately depict what exactly is going on in the club, you know, but
yeah, I think that like with Hustlers, it definitely didn't accurately depict everything that happens, or even a little bit of what happens to most sex workers and strippers. I feel like it's cool that it's bringing attention to it, but like, why couldn't any of the people who like were part of that production use their platform then and their big ass face to be like, I'm gonna make millions off this, but there's tons of sex workers who are like struggling, and like, yeah, it's just the fact that they're making it look cool, but we're getting shit on.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
And I mean, Hustlers is just the tip of the iceberg. I'm not really bothered by Hustlers because like, I think it's a fictional movie, and like, if you say, like, if we were basketball players, there's movies that are, like, glamorized about basketball players, about boxers, about ballet dancers. You know, it's, like, it's part of having an interesting skill, I guess, you know, it comes along with people want to write stories about those people, even if they don't know who they are.
Yeah.
And, like, for me to say I know anything about what it means to be a ballerina because I've watched like Save the Last Dance, or you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's the same kind of thing. So I think that I have to step back and be like, okay, everyone is going to be appropriated at some point or another in some way.
Yeah.
I think it's sweet that they like learned how to do a poll for the movie, some of them and stuff. But like, same when it bring it to like the Super Bowl, like they showcased J-Lo for so long, but like hardly showed any of the other super skilled dancers.
I know.
And I was just like, they're so good. And you're like, I get that she did some cool stuff and they should show that too, but like showcase those super talented dancers the way you do with backup dancers of other styles, I feel.
100%. Like, it's just a lot of like celebrities using strippers as props. These dancers are nameless. You don't know who they are. The focus is not on them. And it's like, why don't we acknowledge some of those workers there? And I don't even know if they're actually sex workers. They might just be skilled pole dancers too. Like, you just don't know. And I think it's like a little bit problematic too, just because no one is really kind of like paying the respects to where it all began. And that's why I think we're all kind of riled up, because, you know, give credit where credit's due, and it's just not. So
and I think that like the whole trend of full fitness, which is how I got into it too, like that has brought a lot of attention to one side of it, and how like it is an exercise and people should be respected even if they do this exercise. But it's also like, okay, but that's not what we're asking for. We're asking for you to respect it even if it's not an exercise. Like,
totally.
You know, like J-Lo learning pole is only impressive to me if she also learned about what it takes to be a dancer in a club. I don't know how much research she did. I know that she met with like Jack the Stripper, and like she worked in that movie a little bit, and like there are people who worked as strippers who were part of the movie, so I think they did do research. But like just like promote the people who inspire your work, you know, like
totally.
That's what it is.
100% agree with that. It's just like you mentioned something about the pole studios too, and like that's kind of like where I started as well. Not particularly with sex work, but that kind of catapulted my like stripping and exotic dancing stint for a little bit. So like it's not a bad thing, okay? Like it's bringing this to the forefront. It's a great form of exercise. Totally get that. But then there are some studios that just completely discount exotic dance. This is strictly for fitness. And I have a big problem with that, and it's coming to light. There's a couple different studios. I'm not going to name them here on this show, but there are some studios in Canada that completely erase that part of pole dancing. And to me, you can't separate the two. So
no, I agree 100%. And like I have worked for studios in the past that didn't align with the way I see things, and you know, I think it's important to make sure you're not just following along doing things because like that was the job I had, you know. And then at a certain point I kind of realized that the boss, the owner of that studio, was not really supporting the things in the same way I support them, and definitely overheard her talking about my style and calling it a lot of mean words.
Oh no!
And kind of, you know, like implying that like it is like a dirtier version of this fitness trend, you know. And I'm like,
oh my gosh,
you can't shit on where it comes from, you know. And it was like, I don't know, like I had my own issues with that person.
Oh god.
But I mean, like, yeah, like it was hard for me to continue teaching exotic and trying to teach people how to release their inner slut. But I don't feel like it's a safe place for me to do that, you know?
Right.
Like that's what people want when they take a pole fitness class. Some of them want to just do like tricks and the strength stuff, and don't care so much about the sexual expression, but they're connected. And if you own a studio, you need to allow space for that side of it, or else it's just not fair to to the art form, in my opinion.
No, I completely agree with that for sure. Like, it's honestly like a disservice to all sex workers, in my opinion, when you're doing that, because you have the ability to reach people.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to be doing it in the proper way, because yes, there is a proper way of doing that and spreading your voice and spreading your words and spreading the art, then it's like, why are you even in this line of business? Right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so a little bit of a sidebar, but still related. I'm a little bit fired up with that too, because like I keep seeing that and I keep seeing stories, and it's honestly just very, very, very frustrating to see and hear in our community, you know?
No,
So
it really is.
I guess like the next topic there, we're going to be going into just a little bit in terms of like the whole FKA Twigs things, because I'm really just seeing two sides of the fence here. Like I'm seeing sex workers and pole dancers that love FKA Twigs. She's an artist. She makes some incredible music. She came out with a song last year. I can't even remember what it's called, but it's the one with the pole dancing video. And they're like, oh, she's Cellophane. There you go. And I was like, what's it called? I can't think of it right now. And I thought it was beautiful. Like, I think it's really great that she is using that as an art form and as a form of expression and stuff too. But then on the other side, some people are angry about that whole situation too. It's like, why didn't you just hire some strippers to do that instead? Like, why are you stealing our aesthetic and being a culture vulture and doing that, but you're not actually a stripper? So I personally, I personally have like no problem with the video. But like, again, stealing the aesthetic is a little bit problematic to me. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that.
I feel like the video, when it came out, I had no problem with it. I was like, that's so cool that she's taking up pole and that she wants to showcase that in her video. That's going to, encourage more people to learn about it and stuff. I thought that was cool. I did later hear people were like, she should have credited her instructors, which I think is always something respectful to do when you're learning something.
Totally.
If I teach a student a trick, I'm not expecting you to credit me every time you do that trick, but like the first time, or if you do it on a national screen, you know what I mean? Like, you could have paid a little bit more, or like promoted her studio, or like her coach. Like, obviously she's probably really fucking rich and can afford private lessons and got really good because of that.
Yes.
So like that person should also be using that for their success, you know?
100%. Like,
in terms of like her bothering me, in terms of her bothering me, she had like this other video. Well, she also was just deleting a bunch of comments on shit on Instagram.
Yes.
And then she had this other video where she's just full on pretending to be a cam girl.
Yes.
And then people were like upset. Sex workers were upset, and then she came out and was like, I worked as a hostess for years which is part of the sex industry and blah, blah, blah. And kind of was just like, I'm allowed to do this because I was part of the industry at one point, and also said that she had been planning for a long time to like talk about the stigmas. Right. But like, why did it take you until a bunch of people were pissed off at you to start talking about it?
Right?
Like, why when you released that first video about pole, why didn't you take that as your moment to talk about your history as a sex worker? If you believe you used to be a sex worker, which I'm not sure she actually believes that about herself.
Yeah.
If you really did believe that then when you made that video, why didn't you say it then? Why didn't you talk about it then? Yeah. Why did you delete all these comments? Why did you...
Yes.
So it does make me question her motives. I feel like she was using the aesthetic of stripping and sex work to further herself.
Yeah,
because
her career.
It is intriguing.
Yeah,
it's super intriguing. That's why I got into it. But if you are intrigued, then do it. You know, like.
No.
I don't know, and that's same with the Bella Thorne thing.
Oh my god.
Shit, like, if you're intrigued, then do it, but do it for real, you know? Like, don't pretend. I like just stood up off my bed and started like yelling into the room, like.
Girl, do it. There's like so much to say there, you know, like, so like these celebrities, these artists, like they come from a really huge platform with a ton of influence, you know, like to me it's just a missed opportunity for you to not only to educate yourself, especially if you're not familiar where this line of work comes from, but also to educate your fans and your audience on a national, international, worldly scale, you know. So going into the Bella Thorne incident, so I've been following this since, like, you know, it came out, and this is like a week and a half ago or so, and the story has just been developing, and this is why I'm going to release it now. So basically, if you guys are unfamiliar with what's going on, and honestly, I don't keep up with celebrity gossip. I didn't even know who the fuck Bella Thorne was. Like, who's this bitch? Like, I had no idea. I had to Google her. I had no idea. But she's an actor, a model, and basically, to sum up the story, she joined OnlyFans, which, as you guys have been listening to the podcast, it's a big platform, mainly for creatives and sex workers. So, it's a subscription-based service. You can join as a fan, pay $5, $10, whatever they set your price to, and you get exclusive access to pictures and videos, like live camming sessions with them, pay-per-view messaging, and so on. So, there's been a lot of things with OnlyFans ramping up during the pandemic. In general, like, you know, everyone lost their job. Celebrities started rapping about it. Like, I think the whole, like, Beyonce did rap with that with Megan Thee Stallion. So it's just bringing a lot of attention to the platform. And some celebrities have been using it, and we'll get more into that really soon. But basically, Bella Thorne joined the platform and made $1 million in a day. She was the first person to break $1 million in 24 hours. And I think by day 2 or at the end of the week, she made $2 million. So it is crazy just because she's taking so much away from sex workers. And she was using the platform to, quote unquote, do research for an upcoming film or for a role for a film with one of my favorite producers. But to me, it just sounds awful. Like, you're just using us and you're not doing real research. You're not getting the real experience. And then the whole thing with the pay-per-view messaging. So on OnlyFans, you can send messages out to your followers. To unlock it, they can pay for it. So you could set a price on it. There wasn't a cap before, but she sent out the message. It was for $200, and some of her fans paid that. And what did you guys get? You guys got a non-nude, like. And she was saying, okay, see me naked. It's a naked photo. Like, and to scam her fans like that, what the fuck? So people are trying to get their refunds, their money back. And then now OnlyFans has now a cap of $50 per pay-per-view messaging. Tips of $100 max. There was never a cap on that before. And now it takes like 30 days to get paid out, which usually it took like 7 days. So there are a lot of things to say here. Saskia, do you want to jump in here? Yeah. I feel like you're like dying to speak.
Well, like, I will say OnlyFans has said that their change in rules has nothing to do with one specific user, but I think that we can all agree that that's probably bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm also, like, I don't want to speak on behalf of anyone else. This is just my opinion about the whole situation, but, like, I'm all for celebrities getting on OnlyFans. And if you, like, the person who paid $20 subscription for Bella Thorne's OnlyFans is not the same person who's going to pay for my subscription. So I don't feel like he's directly, like, fucking people over necessarily. But I didn't, you know, I was like, fucking make that money, you know, $1 million in a day, that's fucking dope.
Yeah.
But to say you're doing it to learn about sex workers is one thing. If you're actually going to do sex work. But you're not. You're scamming people. You're telling people you're doing sex work, but then you're actually fucking them out of their money.
Yeah.
So I don't understand how she thought that was going to teach her anything about being a sex worker. She has the funds to hire people to teach her about anything she fucking wants.
Yes.
She didn't need to do that to find out anything.
Yeah.
I think really probably what happened is that she, Tana Mojo, who is a big YouTuber, started an OnlyFans within the past months, and she's like doing really, really fucking well on her OnlyFans, but she is posting like pits out photos. You know what I mean? She's not scamming people. And her and Bella Thorne have a history, and I feel like it's very possible that Bella Thorne just kind of got this idea somewhere where she could do that too. She thinks I sound like an asshole right now, but I feel like she thinks she's this like super woke, sex positive, really like artsy and edgy celebrity who's trying to do things differently, but like she's not. She's just like an overgrown Disney star who thinks she's different because she's horny. But like, fuck, you're just like everybody else. You're not special. Just, you know what I mean? Like,
no, I know what you mean.
Like, she just was like, I'm gonna make a shit ton of money off nudes. But then she decided, oh, you know what? I could actually make the same amount of money and not sell nudes.
Yeah.
So she did that and fucked over so many people in the process. Like, my OnlyFans. Well, I only take a payout about once a month anyway because I don't make that much on my OnlyFans.
Yeah,
it's kind of like a side thing.
Yeah.
But for someone who is making thousands of dollars a day from their OnlyFans, and now they have to wait 30 days to get that paycheck, and because of quarantine, a lot of people's main job became OnlyFans.
Yeah, exactly.
Now they have to wait 30 days for their pay. And it's because of this person who has never had to wait a day for her pay because she's been a child, like went from being a child star to a celebrity. Like, she's literally never not had money.
Yeah.
So she doesn't understand, like, what she did to thousands of sex workers. Like, it's just so... The apology she issued was like,
oh god,
like so. It sounded like she wrote that when she was like fucking high. Like I was like, write a full sentence.
Yeah.
Like, don't you have a PR person? Like, what the fuck? Like, I was just shocked by that. I was like, this is so badly written.
Yeah.
And you started with a part 1, but then all the other parts don't have a part number, and I was like, this is so irritating. Oh my god.
It was pretty bad. It was like
everything about it.
A total train wreck. And then she's like, I have a meeting with OnlyFans. Like, let me know, comment below, like, what you guys need. Like, let me shout you guys out now. And it's just like, okay, well, now it's like too late. You know what I mean? Like, you should have done this from the beginning.
And it also seems so like fake to be like, send me your link and a pic and I'll promote you guys. Like, you're seriously going to promote every single OnlyFans account?
Yeah. I don't think so.
How are you going to do that?
Yeah.
And then even if you did, that would not do anything because that would be thousands of accounts you're promoting and it just goes down back to the same thing where none of it's going to get seen, you know? Like, such an empty shell of, like, an offer, you know? Like, I was like, okay, like, fuck.
Yeah, honestly, it just seems, well, to me, it's just like, okay, she had some backlash there. It's damage control is what I'm hearing from the whole thing, if you could call it that. It just seems like a cop-out answer. Like, there's no thought put into that, no personalization, like, no sincerity. And I'm just like, what exactly are you doing to help us? Like, you know, like, a lot of people want to see, like, that money donated. Doing something with that's meaningful, that goes towards sex workers. But I have personally not seen anything happen or materialize out of that yet. So, like, that's crazy.
Oh, just a funny Bella Thorne side note to add. So one of my pole students is a graphic designer for Pornhub.
Oh,
so
cool.
She has some like ins about the porn industry that she shares with me sometimes.
Yep.
And at her lesson on Monday, I was ranting about Bella Thorne, obviously, and she was like, you know, she made a porno, and I was like, oh, really? Like, I didn't know that. I've never seen it, and then I was like, oh yeah, she did mention that she was trying to like end stigma around porn and shit. And then my student Taylor, she was like, have you not seen it? Like, I'll show you. And she has like a premium account, right? She's hooked up, so she showed me this video, and I was just gonna watch a few minutes, but we actually almost watched the whole 30-minute porno because it is so cringy.
Oh no,
and so bad, and it's like. And it's so, like, Taylor said that they approached her and were like, you know, they hire celebrities to produce and direct porn sometimes just to, like, because they have such a big following. People will watch just because of that.
Of course.
So, she directed this porno, and it's, like, the premise is that, like, this guy thinks his girlfriend is trying to kill him, and then they have sex, and then turns out it's actually her friend trying to kill her friend's boyfriend. And it's like,
what?
It's not porn at all. It was like a really weird, like, college art film that had sex but whenever it got to the sex, it was like weird artsy angles. So like,
oh my God,
you could never get off to that point. Like it was an art film with some weird sex, and the sex happened to be real. You know, like it was so weird. And I'm all for weird sex art films, but
yeah.
this was not good. So if you have a chance to check out Bella Thorne's porno, I don't think you should pay for it because fuck Bella Thorne. But I can find a clip of it because it's so funny. Oh my God, it's really, really funny.
Oh my God, that sounds awful. Yeah, because I was gonna watch it, but I was like, do I want to pay for this? It's called Her and Him. If you guys are interested, but now that you described it, I am cringing. My vagina just turned dry. Like,
I actually said that. I was like, I don't understand how anyone could, like, this is turning me off. Like, it was making me so uncomfortable to watch. I was like, this is weird. But I think that was her goal, you know, to like do it differently and like be like living on the edge and like whatever, because I guess that's part of her brand, right?
Yeah.
Is that she's trying to like break from her Disney days, but she's doing it in some offensive ways.
Yeah, which isn't like productive at all. It's not effective. And
no.
Did you read about like her sister joining OnlyFans too?
No, I didn't. God. No, I don't know anything about that.
I'll quickly go into it. So her sister, Kaylee, joined OnlyFans, and there's a lot of comments there that she's been making, like, quote unquote, sex work is not real. Sex work does not exist. Sex work should not be work. And she's linking that to why human trafficking exists, which is a huge fucking claim. And this part makes me really angry. Yeah, like, I was shocked when I read that. I was like, girl, like, what are you even saying? Like, it just, so much damage there. You know what I mean?
But she's Bella Thorne's, she's Bella Thorne's sister?
Sister Kaylee.
What? And this is, what? I don't understand what she's trying to, what is she doing on her OnlyFans then?
I have no idea, but probably not nudes again.
She's just like preaching being an asshole.
Yeah, preaching being an asshole, what? Making some really dangerous comments and statements, and the whole thing with linking sex work with human trafficking, like that, you're just getting it all wrong. Like, again, not saying that, like, human trafficking, obviously that definitely exists, but, you know, us as sex workers, we're choosing to be in this line of work. It's something that we want to do. It's something that we consent to do, and not displacing and not saying that, you know, there are situations where sex workers obviously are maybe forced into the human trafficking trade, but to lump it all together, you can't do that.
Yeah, well, it's like bringing it back to Sesta Fosta, and that's just so confusing that someone who is, like, why is she it's just odd if she's choosing this moment to say that, knowing that she's, like, related to Bella Thorne, and this could get a lot of coverage and stuff. It's just, like, weird choices all around.
Super weird.
And, really problematic, because that's obviously really not true. Sex work is work.
Yes. And, yes, 100%.
And, like, it's such a fucking problem. Especially, like, celebrities who don't know what they're talking about. Like, why are you making a movie about Bella Thorne being a sex worker to begin with? Like, why can't we make some movies about some, like some real stuff? Like, fuck.
Totally. I mean,
like, imagine the movie where Bella Thorne is, like, an OnlyFans model. Like, that's not gonna portray anything about sex work.
No, it doesn't. Like, it's a really surface level view on the topic, and I love Sean Baker as director. Actually, update, Bella Thorne and Sean Baker are not making a movie together anymore. So Sean Baker came and said, he's like, nope. He's like pulling the plug on that project. Done.
So because he probably had nothing to do with her joining OnlyFans. He probably was like, talked to her about this once, and she was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna join OnlyFans to do research. And then he was probably like, oh, that's not what I meant. Like,
no, I mean, there's so many other ways to go about it. Like, you can, especially if you're coming from that kind of position of affluence and money and wealth, like, you can definitely just hire a consultant. You can reach out to sex worker groups. There's so many people. There's just so many resources out there. It's pretty inexcusable.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no.
super frustrating. But there are a lot of Q&A questions that came in for you. So why don't we
cool.
take it down, since that was a really rage-filled episode. Hope you guys are still listening. And we'll go into some questions. So what was it like growing up with a mom who was a dancer?
Well, I mean, I guess I remember a few times, like, telling other people, like, other kids at school that my mom was a stripper, and then it'd be like, oh my God, and then everyone in the class is talking about how my mom used to be a stripper, and, like,
oh, wow.
You know, like, I mean, I definitely was aware of the fact that if I told people, like, some people would really think that was a big deal.
Right.
But very quickly, I also just realized that, like, it kind of made me seem cool. So I think I just, like, kind of ran with it, you know? I was just
cool.
Like, yeah, my mom used to be a stripper, and, like, I'm cool because my parents are cool. Like, I definitely had I have cool parents thing. Like, my parents let me, like, have parties at the house and stuff all the time, and they were always very, very open. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's just all comes together with me feeling like, yeah, I was allowed to do what I wanted, so in a safe way. So yeah,
that's cool. That's a really cool way, and, like, again, super accepted. So yay to cool parents. Did you face any stigma outside of the house growing up?
I guess I would say no. Yeah, no, I don't feel like I mean, there's obviously stigma that I experienced as a pole dancer more, I feel like, than as a stripper. Like, people will lump the two together.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot more people who will judge you for being a regular person who does pole than there are people who will judge you for being a stripper. Because it's like, once you're a stripper, you're outside of their cusp of moral values, you know?
Okay.
And you're, like, too far gone. Whereas, like, being a pole dancer, I think people are like, oh, why do you choose to do that? Like, you could choose to do any exercise form. So I feel like there's a certain side of it that I definitely feel for the, like, family members, you know, who are, like, distant family members, random people who will be like, oh, totally okay with talking about one part of it and not another part of it. And
yes.
Yeah, so not really, but sort of.
Okay. This is a long one. So how did the ease of family pressure affect your decisions, like dating and working as a dancer versus other dancers that might have the same issues?
I think that because I never had to hide anything, I've always felt safe opening up to my family about all of the things, and I have a very good support group of people who I can talk to. Like, say if something fucked up happens to you at work, like, you want to be able to talk about it with people. And a lot of dancers, some people, literally no one in their entire life knows they're a dancer, and that's for sure really hard if you have to, like, come home, take a shower, and pretend it never happened, you know? And, like, that, I think, makes the job seem harder sometimes if you can't talk through things. I know, like, I have a friend who no one in her whole life knows she's a dancer.
Oh, wow.
I can only imagine how hard it is when you're, like, at family gatherings and stuff, trying to, like, keep on this, like, act that you're a bartender or you work at the casino or something, you know? Like,
yeah.
So I don't know. I've just always been at ease with my family, and that has made me, I think, definitely, like, grow into who I am and be loud about it. Because, like, yeah, I'm no one's judging me for like talking about sex work on my Instagram and shit, you know? So
yeah, that
obviously has helped me feel confident about who I am and the choices I've made. Because I haven't had to hide it.
That's incredible. So you're so lucky. So lucky to have cool parents like that and just have accepting parents, you know? What are your thoughts on regular non-sex worker folk joining OnlyFans generally and especially during the time of COVID?
I definitely think it's fine, so long as people are giving what they say they're giving. Like, I think sex work is not reserved for certain people. I don't think you have to need money to do sex work. I don't think you have to be desperate to do sex work. I think that everyone should be allowed to make that choice. And I think even if you're a rich celebrity, I think a lot of the time there's, like, especially with women, female celebrities who don't make any money off of the fact that they are used as a sex symbol. You know what I mean? And they're seen as a sex symbol, and they're eroticized. And I think that it's a way for people to make money off themselves when they wouldn't have been able to make money off of that before.
Right.
So I think that's really cool. But yeah, I just think that people should follow the rules like everyone else.
Right. It still applies.
That's my only issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make a good point there. What is your relationship with your dancer, queen, boss, mom? I met them at the Vitality show.
Oh, wait, what is my relationship with my mom? Is that what the question was?
Yeah, you're a dancer, queen, boss, mom.
Oh, okay. It's a super good relationship. I mean, like, I tell my mom literally everything, and I think that weirds some people out. Like, my friends think it's weird how much I tell my mom. My sister doesn't even tell my mom as much as I tell my mom, and my mom probably doesn't want to know all the stuff I tell her. But I think that, like, it's fun because I like seeing her reaction to things and stuff, you know. So
yeah,
like, if I like sell a foot picture or something, and then I tell my mom, or like, because like the way I really got into like sex work technically is that I started selling my underwear on Craigslist when I was in college.
What?
And that was like my first ever, like, you know, I guess if you consider that sex work, at the time I didn't.
Yeah.
I just thought I was doing something silly and making some money, but looking back, that was definitely me, like, dipping my toes, you know?
For sure.
And I remember telling my mom about that, and she was like, oh my God, and I'm like a little bit shocked, but like also intrigued. I'm like just worried about my safety, but other than that, she was like, who are these people? Like, where do you meet them? How does that, you know, she was intrigued by it. So I think that it's always, like, made me feel like I'm totally allowed to be myself and open up to my mom, and she's going to be totally fine with whatever that means. And I think if I didn't have that, I wouldn't be the person I am, just because I would be trying to hide it and trying to not make her upset and not embarrass her. But she will, like, repost my, like, slutty dances on her Facebook for all her friends to see and stuff, you know? So it's, like,
that's awesome.
It's cool that she's just she's very supportive, and she's very pro every choice I make. So that's pretty cool.
That's very cool. And she just sounds like she is very open-minded as well, which is awesome. Super awesome. And I guess the last question here is, what is your biggest fear?
Oh.
Deep questions. Yeah.
It's
a good question.
I have, like, I don't know, like, I don't have any, like, rational fears, I don't think, you know, like, I'm afraid of, like, maggots and, like, things that, like, crawl and squirm, particularly, like, I'm totally cool with bugs with legs. Mostly, but if they don't, like, maggots really fucking gross me out. So that is like a material fear, I guess. I think like a lot of people, I've always had a fear of just being, like, mediocre, of just being regular. And I think that that's what drives a lot of people to do their best, you know, is like, I want to be remembered for something. Yeah. And I didn't think it was going to be this, but, you know, I'm fucking here for it. So, yeah, I guess that's probably it. I'm always just, like, stressing out about not amounting to anything. But,
cool.
But, yeah.
That's such a good answer. Such a good answer. I like that.
Yeah.
I guess that is it for questions, which brings us to the why is my voice all weird? That brings us to the end of this episode. But before I let you go, Where can we find you, Saskia?
So my Instagram is just my name at Saskia Klunder, SaskiaKlunder, and that's where I post all my stuff, my daily stuff. But I've also got a website which is just SaskiaKlunder.com, same thing. And if you want to book workshops or lessons or events or anything like that, you can do that on there. And yeah, I mean, if you're ever in the Montreal area, I will eventually be returning to Cabaret Kingdom to dance.
Ooh.
I'm going to wait until I feel a little bit less nervous about COVID.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you ever want to see me on stage, I'll do it there. And my OnlyFans is Natasha's here. So like as if your name is Natasha and you have arrived, Tasha's here.
Cool.
And yeah, that's like really like last week I posted a video of my friend slapping me in the tits with aloe, like those huge aloe
plants?
Chunks, like leaves. Yeah, we like sliced one down the middle and we were just like slapping each other with them. So that was not intended to be for OnlyFans, but it went in that direction, and that was the only place I could post it. So yeah, it's just silly, partially nude content, but yeah.
Amazing. I will be posting all those links in the show notes below. But Saskia, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. It was a total pleasure, and it was great to just like let some steam off. With regards to everything.
It was really good. It was fun to like talk about this with someone like-minded and who's in the same industry, so it was good. Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. And guys, don't forget, new episodes every single Sunday. It's Strip by Sia on Instagram, and get at me at my personal Sia Steph on Instagram as well. And we'll catch you guys in for another episode next Sunday. Bye. You're listening to Strip by Sia, hosted, produced, and edited by Steph Sia, artwork by Maria Bellandirama, music by Ted D, and photography by Ian Dabburn.